Hello YouTube, it's been a week and I just want to show you how I prepare spaghetti squash. I picked up this baby today at the store and I didn't realize it was organic and I paid quite a pretty penny for it, but it does taste good, and I'm planning to make like a little natural tomato sauce with it, and I'm going to try some vegan meatballs. So I will let you know how this all comes together. But for now, I was watching Clean and Delicious, and she said if you want to cook it in the microwave, that's probably the quickest and best way to do it. So you just need to poke some holes through your squash. And yeah, so that's what I've done. And I'm going to pop it in the microwave and see how it goes. So how to cook it in the microwave is make sure you have your holes in your spaghetti squash, otherwise it runs the risk of exploding, and we don't want to mess like that. You can put it in a microwave dish, and this is all that I had handy right now. And you're supposed to cook it so many minutes per pound. So I'm just using it as a rough guide. I'm going to try 6 minutes and then turn it over and then try another 6 minutes and see if it's fully cooked. So I checked my spaghetti squash at 12 minutes and it didn't seem quite done yet. So I turned it around again and cooked it for another 3 minutes, and then I heard a pop. So it actually did split. Ouch, it's hot. Yeah, it's split there. So then I started feeling some areas, and definitely it's done. It does indent. So I will just let this cool for about 5 minutes, and I will cut it in half and scrape it out. Alright, so it's been roughly 6 minutes. It was cool enough to touch with a towel for me to cut the top off, which I will discard. And then I cut it in half. So the next couple of minutes I'm just going to scoop out the seeds, and then I will show you what it looks like when it's all done. Okay, so there you have it. I have scraped out that big spaghetti squash out completely, and this is a smaller casserole dish, or maybe it's more like a medium, but as you can see, it looks like you're just going to serve up a big serving of pasta to the family. So I'm going to be making I think I'm just gonna make a salsa, but it's very basic, so honestly it's more like a tomato sauce because I don't like anything spicy. I'm just going to be putting tomatoes and a little bit of garlic in it, and and a green pepper, because I don't like peppers like jalapeno peppers or green chilies, so hopefully it's going to be good. I will get back to you when I make the sauce. I'm about to make my mild salsa, which I'm just going to use to top my spaghetti sauce, and then I'll just keep it in the green jar because I'm sure I'm going to have extra. I've never made this before. I don't have a recipe. I'm just basically winging it. So I don't really like cilantro, so I'm going to just put some spinach in there just to green it up a little bit. I'm not going to go crazy with the basil or the chives because it'll probably taste weird. I'll put a little bit of garlic in there, and I am going to try this Fiesta Lime Mrs. Dash. And if I need a little bit of sea salt, I'll do it. My pink Himalayan salt is at work, so I'm just going to go light on that if I use it at all. I'll probably use half of an onion, and I don't know if 6 will be enough of these Roma tomatoes, or I have a couple extra. So we're going to see how it goes. All right, so I put a little bit of water in there, like just a little under a 1/4 cup, because I don't have anything in there and I don't know how it's actually going to work yet. But then on top of the water, I added maybe a teaspoon of the Mrs. Dash lime seasoning, the Fiesta Lime. Then I added, about a clove's worth of garlic, maybe half a teaspoon of basil, and then half a teaspoon of chives, because I don't want it to be overpowering like a marinara sauce or anything. I don't know, we'll see how it goes. And then the only thing I have left to do, I added in probably 4 of the tomatoes for now, just so it can get mixed. I'll add the onion and then add more tomatoes and then give it a taste test. So we're going to start blending now. You always make sure the variable is on the low speed. We're going to turn it on. You always start at 1, and then you just blend it at 3 for a minute, not even a minute. Now, because there's a bunch of chunks in here, you will have to use the tamper to push it down. You can already see it's mixing quite nicely here. There it goes. salsa is definitely on the green side, and that's because I added spinach, a whole bell pepper, which I forgot to shoot in the beginning. I had to run back to the fridge and put it in. And I also added some basil and chives. So the green color is more overwhelming than the red. I did go back and add a couple more tomatoes, so you can see some specks of it in there. And I also added another tablespoon. Well, actually, I didn't even put a tablespoon. I probably put half a teaspoon in of the Mrs. Dash Fiesta lime seasoning. So I made sure I had a nice tablespoon to kick up the seasoning a little bit. And then I did add some salt, maybe, I don't know, quarter to half a teaspoon. So I'm going to taste it again and see how it tastes. I probably didn't need that quarter cup of water that I put in, but anyway, it blended nice. So glad I remembered that green bell pepper, because that just gave it instant flavor. And it really tastes really nice. I like my salsa on the runny side, so I don't care about the extra water I put in. You can still see that I have chunks of the onion and the tomatoes and the spinach and the seasoning. So I think it was a very good success. If you don't like it this runny, however, you don't have to add the water, and I'll try that next time. But for now, for not having a recipe and just winging it, I think it turned out pretty good. So the salsa may not look very appealing. It looks kind of gray and brown, but trust me, it does taste good. And if you're making it just for yourself or your family, no problem. I don't know if I'd want to put this in front of guests though, just because of how it looks. But I'm going to eat this up, and tomorrow I'm going to attempt to make my vegan meatless meatballs using chickpea flour, and I think I can put a little bit of broccoli in there and flax, because you need kind of like a binder for egg, and I don't want to use eggs. And I don't want to use grains like bread, so I'm going to be using quinoa. So I'll whip that up tomorrow and see how that one goes. So it's time for me to attempt to make some vegan meatless meatballs, and I'm roughly following the ingredients that is on the back of those Eve's Veggie Cuisine vegan bites. And it doesn't matter which one you follow, either the kale and quinoa or the broccoli bites, because I'm modifying the ingredients anyway. And again, I'm totally winging it. I have no idea what kind of measurements to do and proportions, so I'm just gonna do an experiment. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But if it does and I need modifications, then I will film a proper video. But I still wanted to do a step-by-step, just so you could see how I attempted to put a recipe together. So I put in roughly a cup of roasted sweet potato and I mashed it. I'm using a cup of cooked cooled quinoa. I will be throwing in roughly a quarter cup of onions, and that might be too much for my liking. And I have terrible knife skills, so don't mind the terrible chopping. I'm not sure about how much garbanzo bean flour I'm going to need. I think I'll try half a cup. And then I need something to bind the meatball, so like an egg, because I don't want to use eggs. And so I'm going to I'm going to try a tablespoon, because I know if I have too much of flaxseed, it really makes me go to the bathroom, and that's not what I want to do. For vegetables, I'm going to put, I don't know, maybe not all of this broccoli, and these cucumbers are for the sushi I'm going to make later. And then I'm going to put in I'm going to cut the carrot up into smaller pieces. And then I'll put a little bit of garlic and ginger and some apple cider vinegar. All right, so I will let you know how that goes. All right, I'm going to record this so I don't forget what measurements I used. I just patted everything down to see if it was going to be sticky enough. So that's going to be my first try. So I probably used about half a cup of chickpea flour, which is a garbanzo bean flour. I used about a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, probably a teaspoon of garlic, a teaspoon of ginger, probably a tablespoon of flax. I think I used about a half a cup of broccoli and half a cup of carrots. So I'm going to see if I can actually roll these into meatballs and see how they are. So here they are. They look pretty darn cute, and they stuck together pretty well. I've got 21 out of the ones that I made. I did modify the recipe a little bit. I only used half a cup of chickpea flour, and I should have probably used a cup, because I found that I had to keep adding flour as I rolled them because it was really sticky. And the taste is good. It's a bit oniony for my taste, because I had a quarter onion in there. Maybe next time only an eighth of an onion would do, but you need that for the flavor. and I'm pretty happy with how everything tastes. So I'm going to try popping them in the oven at 350 for 20 minutes and see if they, they don't even really need to cook because everything is raw and vegan in here. So I could even just pop one of these in my mouth right now and I'm sure it would be perfectly fine. But I do want to warm them up and maybe see if they'll get a little bit brown and see if maybe with the cooking some of the flavor of the ginger and the garlic will come out a little bit more. And it would be nice if they actually, stayed together like a meatball. So I will let you know what they look like and how they taste like after they're out of the oven. But I'm pretty happy with how it turned out so far for not having a recipe. So after 20 minutes at 350 degrees, they look done to me. I pick one up and if they're a little brown at the bottom, which is good, which means they didn't burn. I could have probably flipped them over halfway through, but I really don't see the point. They feel nice and firm, like they got a bit of a crust on them, and that's from the quinoa and the chickpea flour and the flax. So they look and feel good. I'm just gonna taste them in just 1 second here. And they did hold together when I took a bite of them. I am gonna have to play with the flavors though, because something's missing, and it probably could be something just basic like salt. But honestly, they're so nice and fresh, and I'm not knocking the ones that you buy in the store because I am going to buy them still, just purely out of convenience. I don't have time every week to make a bunch of homemade vegan meatless meatballs, but these are nice. They're perfect for my spaghetti squash and homemade salsa that I made, and I can just put like 4 on the top and that's a meal, and I feel like I've had a real spaghetti dinner. So I'd say this was a pretty successful first attempt, and what I plan on doing is I did invest in a tripod and a mic, so once I have time to play around with that and set it up, I ordered it from Amazon. I will actually film again how I made these, and maybe next time I'll find a better spice combination just to, kick it up a notch. Like I've said before, I'm not really a hot, spicy person, but I still want some seasonings and flavor in it. So that's what I did, and I'm very happy with my vegan meatless meatballs made with quinoa, and the vegetables were sweet potato, carrot, and broccoli, and some onion. I'm very happy with how my vegan meatless meatballs turned out. They got a nice little bit of a crispy, crunchy edge to them. I mean, I could have cooked them longer, but to me they're just fine. My salsa mix definitely needs work. I think the key ingredient was I was missing the lime juice, and that's why it turned that gray brown color. And I also think if I'd added some green chilies and maybe some red peppers, then it would have looked better. I have no problem with the taste, but it just does not look very appealing. So that is my totally vegan experiment with making spaghetti and meatballs. I used spaghetti squash, I made a homemade salsa in my Vitamix, and these are my vegan meatless meatballs. I will definitely be back when I make this again. I do have a tripod that I need to set up and a mic so I can be hands-free and show you the steps all together. Have a great day.